सेव किया था ना?
मैं सिर्फ इसलिए गया था क्योंकि उसने मुझे कॉल किया, that's it. But listen तो.
Save it for someone else.
जिंदगी में सेव करना जरूरी है, मगर जब बात पैसों की हो, सिर्फ सेविंग से काम नहीं चलेगा। इक्विटी म्यूचुअल फंड्स में इन्वेस्ट कीजिए और अपने सेविंग्स को आगे बढ़ने का मौका दीजिए।
Mutual fund investments are subject to market risks. Read all scheme-related documents carefully.
This episode of Cut the Clutter goes back to Indian politics, which we haven't done for some time, in the heart of Indian politics, in the heartland of Indian politics. That is the state of Uttar Pradesh. Uttar Pradesh is the heartland of Indian politics, or heartland of power in India, not just because of where it's located geographically or because a lot of its people, a large majority of its people speak Hindi language. It's not about being the Hindi heartland. In this case, it is the political heartland simply because it contributes 80 members to Lok Sabha. And for anybody to get a majority in India's Lok Sabha, they have to max it out in Uttar Pradesh, which is what Narendra Modi has done twice. And that's the reason it is the political heartland. Now, if Uttar Pradesh is so important to India's politics and all of you are pundits in Indian politics, let me tell you something. Let me ask you a quiz question, a GK quiz question. Who do you think is the longest serving chief minister in Uttar Pradesh history? Longest serving not as in 4 terms, 200 दिन आज, 100 दिन आज. That way I can find you Mayawati because she had four terms. One was a full term, others were tiny terms. So if you add those all up, that is something else. But in one go, uninterrupted, who's that chief minister? So I know that most of you might be better informed than even me, but the fact is that even I have come to this realization only lately, thanks to my colleague D.K. Singh, who's our political editor, that the longest serving chief minister of Uttar Pradesh, uninterrupted, is the current chief minister, that is Yogi Adityanath. Until Yogi Adityanath, the chief minister who had the longest uninterrupted tenure was Sampurnanand in the 50s. Sampurnanand became chief minister on 28 December 1954. Served till 9th of April 1957. And then from 10th of April 1957, he continued on till 7 December 1960. That makes it 5 years and 345 days. On March 1 of this year, that is, as this month, current month began, on that day, Yogi Adityanath reached 5 years and 346 days. So he became the longest serving uninterrupted. Again, this is something that you might hear about next week. So this is also tomorrow's news today in a way. We are anticipating something that will be the talking point next week. Next week, that is on the 25th of March, he also completes the anniversary in his new term. 1 year in his new term. So Yogi Adityanath has become a very interesting and a sort of unique phenomenon in Uttar Pradesh's politics. Because you know what? Uttar Pradesh has had among the more unstable politics in the country. Unstable politics, which also reflects in how many chief ministers they've had. In these decades, UP has had 21 chief ministers. 21 chief ministers also include some who might have been chief ministers 4 times or 4 separate terms, but separated by the tenure of other chief ministers, so not together. Like Mayawati had 4 tenures, Mulayam Singh Yadav had 3 tenures. I think Sampurnanand Gupta had 3 tenures. I will give you a more accurate count as we go along. But those are chota tenures mostly. So 21 chief ministerships, many terms of president's rule. That apart, this count of 21 is not even counting one chief minister, Jagdambika Pal, who lasted for all of 1 day. So he has the record for being the shortest serving chief ministers in the country. The shortest tenure for a chief minister in India's history was Jagdambika Pal in UP on 21st February 1998. Ramesh Bhandari was then the infamous governor of Uttar Pradesh, and that story has to be told separately of the drama that took place at that time. So, 22 chief ministers, only one had completed 5 years and 345 days. That's almost 6 years in one go. The second one has now surpassed that, and chances are that he will continue on. You see, nothing in the foreseeable future that would indicate a change of leadership in UP. So you might have somebody for the first time in UP's history serving 2 tenures. Now, in the process, this is not just about counting time. Time is important, but this is not just about counting time. It's also about counting impact. So in the last 30 years or so, say in the post-Mandal phase, I can give you the full count of chief ministers of UP, but let's not waste our time doing that. The list of chief ministers of UP will run on your screen as we talk, and you will see how short these tenures have been. Of course, one day for Jagdambika Pal is an exception. It is an extreme exception. But there have been many others who had short tenures, came back again had short tenures. If we look at last 30-35 years, 4 leaders have dominated the state's politics. Who are these 4? Look at Mayawati, for example. First term, 1995. 137 days, second term 1997, 184 days, third term 2002, 1 year and 118 days, and fourth term was a full term, that is 2007 to 2012. Again, theoretically, you could say that Gobind Ballabh Pant actually served for more than 11 years, but a lot of that was when Uttar Pradesh was still united provinces, beginning in the 30s. So we are not counting him in these rankings. Now, if you look at all this, see the chief ministers who made impact. Now, I know it might sound unkind to people like Kalyan Singh, to someone like Rajnath Singh, who've been chief ministers also for shorter tenures. In case of Kalyan Singh, more than once. So they've made their impact, but they were representing the BJP. They were not defining the politics of the state. In the case of Mayawati and the Yadav clan, that is Mulayam Singh Yadav, and after that Akhilesh Yadav had a full term. Between them, the Yadav clan and Mayawati, they defined or redefined the state's politics in their own ways, in their own vision. Ultimately, they lost power, but they did that. They changed the state's politics. They changed India's most important political state's politics. They had such a strong impact. Yogi Adityanath now, as he completes his first anniversary now and has already become the longest serving uninterrupted Chief Minister of Uttar Pradesh, is a unique personality in the sense that he has redefined the state's politics while being the BJP's Chief Minister. So if you look at all the Chief Ministers of the BJP has 11 Chief Ministers. If you look at all the Chief Ministers of the BJP, and I ask you, which Chief Minister do you think is his own man, or which chief minister do you think is their own personality or leader, not dependent on Delhi High Command, always following instructions from High Command, and is not dwarfed by the High Command? The answer would be quite simple. The only chief minister in the BJP's team of 11, at this point, who answers this description is Yogi Adityanath. So just to remind you, there was a time in the last couple of years when BJP had not one but 2 such chief ministers, the other one being Yediyurappa in Karnataka. He also was a chief minister with a mind of his own, not dwarfed by the High Command, very often doing his own thing, whether the High Command liked it or not. Yogi Adityanath now is the only one like that. Also, Yogi Adityanath looks like at this point is the only BJP chief minister who's capable of winning an election in his state by himself. Or even if he can't win it all by himself, then his party will need him not just to win the state elections, but also to be able to max out their seats in parliament elections. That makes Yogi Adityanath really a unique chief minister. But remember, he's also the most polarizing leader in the BJP's team right now. He set up those Romeo squads to go after romancing couples. He also was the first to pass the so-called love jihad laws. He was also the one to pioneer the use of bulldozers, which it seemed were being used selectively against the Muslim community and became very controversial. But remember, all of the things he did were immediately followed or emulated by the other BJP chief ministers. In fact, that is when D.K. Singh wrote that column that said that in his own way, Yogi Adityanath has now become the role model for other BJP chief ministers. He got a lot of grief for that. He came under a lot of attack from the anti-Yogi Adityanath circles, the left liberal circles, the Congress circles, etc., saying that you are calling Yogi Adityanath a role model. He wasn't calling Yogi Adityanath a role model for anybody else, or particularly for those opposed to him. He was calling Yogi Adityanath a role model for other BJP chief ministers. That is a reality. That is something that nobody can deny. In fact, he had then given examples of other chief ministers sending their officials, politicians, ministers to Uttar Pradesh to learn on the new law, to learn about the new laws he was passing, so they could do similar things in their own states. Whether it was about what was called as love jihad, that is interfaith marriages and conversion in the course of interfaith marriages, or for the use of bulldozers against those seen to be involved in mafia activity or in riots, and also equally importantly for cow protection. So whether you like it or not, the fact is that he has become a role model for the other BJP chief ministers. Number two, he's a BJP chief minister of his own kind. He functions in his own way. And third, he's now built a popular constituency of his own, not just in his state, but also across the country among the BJP's committed voters. Remember, I'm qualifying it very clearly. Among the BJP's committed voters, he's now built an electoral pull that other BJP leaders lack. And all of this he has done in about 6 years. If you remember, if you go back 6 years, when he was appointed Chief Minister of Uttar Pradesh, it was a surprise to everybody. Narendra Modi and Amit Shah kept it tightly between themselves. Nobody came to know. Nobody had a whiff. 5 other names were being speculated, and we had the most experienced Dada political pundits saying, I am quite sure so-and-so is going to become Chief Minister. So-and-so is going to become Chief Minister. Nobody said, nobody speculated it will be Yogi Adityanath. And at that time, there was some analysis, and that analysis was rooted in some fact, which was that Narendra Modi and Amit Shah had by now set a trend of choosing lightweights as chief ministers. Manohar Lal Khattar in Haryana, Raghubar Das in Jharkhand, for example, Devendra Fadnavis also in Maharashtra. They were lightweights in local politics, in the state's politics. So the model seemed to be that choose as chief ministers people who do not have too much clout of their own, so the high command can run them. So initially the reaction also was, analysts can't be blamed from thinking that, look, Yogi Adityanath is a prominent figure, but from far away, Gorakhpur, in a distant part of Uttar Pradesh, he's very strong there, right? His mutt is there, but he's not really a big domineering state leader. He's proved them all wrong. He's now become a big domineering state leader as he steps into his 6th year. Between his first term and second term, we also see some differences. It looks like he has made a conscious shift from his method in the first term to the second term. Remember, cut the clutter is not about opinion. We look at the facts, we look at a complex situation, we analyze it for you, we simplify it for you. So we are now looking at probably the most significant political phenomenon to rise since the rise of Narendra Modi in national politics from any party. And that's why it's important to understand what he is doing and how he is evolving, changing for the better, for the worse. You make that call. Now, from his first term, he has made a distinct shift in the second term. The first term was all about bulldozers, encounters, thok do, about anti-Muslim talk. It has now, he's tried to shift it in the second term to development, employment, infrastructure, and the promises of $1 trillion economy. Now, $1 trillion economy, if Mr. Modi is saying $5 trillion economy for India, then UP is about 1/6 of India, or little less than 1/6 of India. So it sounds logical for the Chief Minister of UP to say that I will make mine a $1 trillion state. The year he has given himself, the deadline he's given himself is 2027, when the state has its next election. The fact, however, is that for the last year, for the financial year 2021-22, UP's GSDP, that is the state's GDP, was only $232 billion. So for that to get to $1 trillion by 2027 would mean that in another 3 years, the UP quadruples its the size of its GDP. Now that's not an easy thing to do. That's probably not going to happen. But the fact is that the switch that he has made in his method would suggest that he really wants to rebrand himself and go in that direction. So now there is not that much talk of bulldozers and counters, anti-Muslim rhetoric or the laws, etc., etc. In fact, on the other hand, you have these investor summits, you have these inaugurations and foundation stone laying ceremonies for big infrastructure projects, the work on the Jewar airport, the other side of the Jamna from Delhi, many other airports in the state, new highways, new industrial zones, and also the appointment of a whole bunch of consultants, mostly private sector consultants. Now, once again, I said to get to 1 trillion by 2027 from what was only 232 billion in 21-22 is going to be a very tall ask, a very tall order. But the fact that he has shifted attention from bulldozers, encounters, Thokdo and anti-Muslim rhetoric to this shows you that he is changing his politics, or at least is trying to change his brand image. Now we all know that politics is a very tough profession. In fact, I like to tell people, enjoy Indian politics because nothing is more fun and fair, because it's very competitive, and the toughest, the most skillful, luck plays its role, but the toughest, the most skillful, skill also means that you should be able to figure out what ideology would the voters want and to mold yourself accordingly. That kind of a leader wins in this competition. If you look at this field right now and the field of talent available, I will list some things that work for Yogi Adityanath. Once again, this is not opinion, just fact. So number one, he's the only BJP chief minister today who's a master of his own, more or less a master of his own. It's not as if he gets a diktat from Delhi, he will not carry it out. Mostly he will carry it out. There will be some issues about some appointments where he's been difficult, but mostly he'll carry out the High Command's diktats. But he will not only depend on High Command's diktats, he will also do many things on his own. He will not clear everything he wants to do with the High Command. Most things he will do on his own. Number two, he's the only chief minister in the BJP who sets the standard for others, and others then emulate him or follow him, other BJP chief ministers. Number three, he still does not have a personal corruption charge against him, and at this point, until this point, he does not have a family issue that he's trying to help somebody from his family, a nephew, niece, he's single, a nephew, niece, uncle, cousin, etc., etc. Until now, there is no such blot on him. So that is the third thing going for him. Number four, he's the most Hindu-like of all BJP politicians. All BJP politicians practice Hindutva, but he's the most Hindu-like, and he's the least embarrassed and the least hesitant about it. He's completely unafraid to be Hindu, look Hindu, sound like a Hindu, dress like a Hindu monk. Number five, Modi counts on him for his next term, because for Modi to get his next term sort of in an uncluttered way with the full majority, he must sweep Uttar Pradesh. And by now, Yogi Adityanath has sufficient hold in Uttar Pradesh to help Modi in that project. I'm not saying that without him, Modi can't get to 60 plus in Uttar Pradesh. He probably still can. Particularly if you look at the India Today Mood of the Nation polls, he probably still can. But Yogi's presence there will make a vital difference in Uttar Pradesh, if not elsewhere. And number six is the fact that nobody can deny, because that's just a pure fact, that he's the youngest of all the competitors for future power in India. He's younger than Arvind Kejriwal, younger than Rahul Gandhi, and certainly younger than anybody in the BJP who might count himself or herself in that race. So he's got all these points going for him, but remember, this is Uttar Pradesh. This is a very slippery politics. It's also a very divided electorate, and the BJP itself will have a lot of maneuverings and jostling and internal competition going up to 2024. It is for these many reasons that if you are interested in national politics, you must keep an eye on Yogi Adityanath as he celebrates his anniversary, because going ahead, a lot of the BJP/Hindutva politics will pivot in his direction. So if you want to watch the Indian political story and the BJP political story, Remember, he will be one of the very few 2 or 3 key figures going ahead.